Apple Knot here. What I'm doing is I'm collecting Scionwood. Everything's dormant right now, and this is when you want to collect your scions. And at the same time, what I'm doing is some structural pruning on my pear tree, because I have a multi-grafted tree here. Got 9 varieties on here, and so to have every one of these growing in their own little space, for the first little while I'm going to be doing some winter cutting to create branches. So what I've done is I've made my cuts so that I've got buds that are coming away from the tree and kind of out to the sides, so that it doesn't really interfere with the growth that this one's going to put on after when it starts growing. So scions are last year's growth. So this is one of the grafts. This is the amount of growth that it put on last year. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to prune it so that it comes away from the tree and out to the sides, just so it's not clogging everything up going back in towards the tree. So what I'm going to do is just make a cut right here. So this is my scion, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down into lengths and store it in my fridge. So this is all the stuff over here that I'm going to need. I got my scion, I got some paper towel, I've got some cellophane to wrap it up with, I've got some 99% isopropyl alcohol so I can spray my tools and have them clean, so I'm not transmitting any diseases or anything when I'm going from tree to tree. And I've got my water and my masking tape and my marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of paper towel. And what I want to do is I want to moisten this up, because I don't want this stuff to dry out while it's sitting in the fridge. So what I'm going to do is spray some water on here. Just kind of get it moist. I don't need it sopping wet, because if it stays too wet, then you're going to get a lot of mold buildup on here, which can cause problems later on. So what I like to do is I like to cut it down into 6 bud lengths. 1 bud, 2 bud, 3 bud, 4 bud, 5 bud, 6 buds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off here. And now what I've got is a size that's going to fit in here nicely, and I can store it in the fridge and save as much space as I can. But also, when it comes time to do my grafting, I like to do whip and tongue and cleft grafting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off later on, right about there. And I've got 2 pieces that I can graft 2 trees from, 3 buds long. Now, when this graft does take later on in May, these little buds here are going to open up, and they're going to send out branches, which are going to be my basic framework for my tree right off the bat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to count the buds: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm just going to snip it down. Stack it on there. And have everything sitting on here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it up a couple of times, fold over the ends just so that those ends stay moist. Set that off to the side, and then I'm going to take my cellophane, do the same thing, just set it in there, flip it over, roll it a couple of times. And the reason for using the cellophane wrapper on this is because when I'm storing it in my fridge for the winter, there's going to be a lot of ethylene gas given off by all the fruits and vegetables that are in there, and that can actually cause damage to the buds themselves. So what I'm trying to do is just keep those guys safe from any gases that are floating around in my fridge. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the name of the variety of pear on here, which is Marguerite Marolette. And now it's all ready to put in my fridge and keep it there until March, when I'm ready to do my grafts.